All right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call to order the City of West Palm Beach Special Magistrate hearing. Today is March 4th. It is 9:02 by Verizon's time, so we can get started. My name is Amity Barnard. I'm the Special Magistrate for this morning's hearing. The first thing I'm going to do is swear everybody in who's here to testify on any items on today's agenda, including city staff. So if you're here to speak on any code enforcement item, including the folks standing in the back, if you could stand if you're able and raise your right hands. I'll swear you all in at the same time. Raise your right hand, other hand. Thank you, sir. All right, do you all swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated. A little bit about process. Most, if not all, the cases on the agenda today are violation hearings. So when you hear your case called, you're going to come to the podium that's on my left, your right. You'll stand there. The city's code enforcement staff will come to the podium that's on my left or your right. The city will go first. They will present their case to me. They will be scrolling exhibits on the screens on both sides of the room behind me. So you can look at those while they're being displayed. Once the city has called all of its witnesses and completed its testimony, it will be your turn to speak. You'll be able to cross-examine any witnesses that the city has put on, show me any documents that you've brought with you, say anything that you'd like to tell me on the record verbally this morning. And once I've heard from both sides, I'll make a final ruling, and you'll get an order that reflects that ruling in the mail. So with that, I will turn it to the city to call its first case.
First case number 4195 Pershing Way, CE 25063712, number 4195 Pershing Way.
Good morning. Richard Pazmino, City of West Palm Beach Code Enforcement. This property was reset for this hearing. The original case was, the case originally came to Special Magistrate on November 5th, 2025. At the time, it was ordered to be reset for this hearing. The code case was created August 28th, 2025, and the notice was signed, hand-delivered August 29th, 2025, by the property owner, Ray Mascherella. The case, this property was cited for 94-451A4 artificial turf. The property has artificial turf in the parkway. I'm sorry. The parkway was corrected. So the property has artificial turf in the front and side setbacks. 94-451D for artificial turf visible from the road or street. That's for the artificial turf in the front setback. And 94-451G for permit requirement for installation of artificial turf. I've had communication with the owner, email communication as well. It was originally reset because we're waiting for a DEP to finalize their standards, which will prevent municipalities from restricting or prohibiting the installation of artificial turf. That guidance hasn't come out yet, but the owner provided me communications with the DEP. In those communications, they're in the file. In those communications, the representative with the DEP, the director, proposed, they said, the department published a notice of proposed rule on January 20th. A public hearing on the rule was requested and held February 11th. The department received minor comments from the Joint Administrative Procedure Committee staff. If a change is needed as a result of the comments received, a notice of change will be published. The department cannot file for adoption sooner than 21 days after a notice of change will be published. The department cannot file for adoption sooner than 21 days after publishing a notice of change, pursuant to Chapter 120 Florida statute. So it could be adopted within the next month. I am happy to follow up once the rule has officially been adopted. That date of the email was February 18th.
Of this year?
Of this year, yes.
Okay.
So as far as I know, it hasn't been adopted yet. But for this case, the city is requesting that the property is found in violation of the city's current codes as they are written today. We'd like to request an extended date for compliance. The city's requesting 60 days to comply with the current ordinance or run a fine of $50 a day until compliance is achieved.
Thank you, sir. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and the testimony, into evidence.
All right, good morning, sir. Your name?
Raymond Massarella.
And you're the property owner?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
So when we were here last, the city presented all of its evidence, and you were ready to rule, and I was able to successfully convince you to continue this matter until today to give time for the DEP to issue their regulations, and I appreciate that you gave me that time. Since then, I've been, every several weeks I've been in touch with the DEP, and in particular Alex Cornyn, who's the Director of Legislative and Governmental Affairs, just to see where we were in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a process. It's not they go through hearings and public comments and this, that, and the other thing. I actually thought, based on some previous communications with them, that the regulations would be done in January, but turns out that's not the case. And, so the wheels of rulemaking grind very slowly, but I do have this email that Mr. Pasmino read that I'd like to put in the record regarding their timing. Can I approach
Sure.
you?
Is that in the case file, Mr. Pasmino, already?
Is it the same one you sent me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the file. Can you
So it
pull
should
up,
be,
Monique?
we'll make sure that I see it on the screen, but what he's saying is it's in the case file already.
Okay.
So I'll make
So-
sure I see it, and if I don't see it, I'll ask you for that physical copy, and I'll enter that physical copy that you have there.
So as Mr. Pasmino pointed out, this email that my office received on February 18, tells you a little bit about where we are now. And it says that, the rule could be adopted within the next month. So this is February 18. I'm not exactly sure what they were referring to as within the next month, whether that's 30 days or it's March or whatever. But, and to be honest with you, I've kind of heard things like that before, that, it's next month or whatever. But it's just a matter of time. And I think we're close. Who knows? I'm left to the bureaucracy up there and their process. So I'm asking for an additional 60-day continuance to see if we can do this, because if not, giving me 60 days to cure this, I don't know, I don't know that the DEP is going to have this done in 60 days. I think so based on what they're writing me, but I think about it. I have to go in there and tear out my turf. I got to substitute it with something else. I got to go through the process of getting building permits and all this stuff. 60 days is, not enough time. And, I want to do the right thing. I don't want to have to tear things out or take any further actions. I just need time.
Yeah, and so let's get through the documents first. Is this the email? Can you scroll back up for me, Madam Clerk, please? Thank you. This is the email that you have, sir. So I just want to make sure that you're in agreement that this is the same email.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's in the city's case file. Yeah, from Alex Cronin. Okay. All right, and then when she's scrolling through the rest of these documents, before we get to the merits, let me have her scroll through the rest of the documents that the city's asking me to enter into the record, and let me know at the end, sir, if you have any objection to any of those documents being entered.
Yeah, I think we did this the last time.
We did partially, yes, but there would have been additional documents sent after that last hearing,
Okay.
and then probably additional photographs. Mr. Pasmino, I'll ask you to correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not sure what the additional, what are the additional documents?
The additional files were the record he submitted last time I uploaded that, and then the emails communications that we just saw, and I uploaded just the whole ordinance covering artificial turf.
All right, so R2, is that the exhibits that he provided at the last hearing?
Yes.
So Madam Clerk, could you open that one up so the respondent can view that one?
Yes.
Yes, that's my handwriting there at the top. So that was the document, sir, that you handed to me and entered into the record at the prior hearing?
Yeah, that would be, photographs I took, yes.
And Mr. Pasmino, were there additional notice documents for this morning? Did you send the prior order? I know the respondent was here, so we had actual service, but I just want to make sure, if, to the extent there needs to be testimony on the previous order being sent certified mail, that that's on the record.
I believe the city attorney's office mails that out.
Okay. All right, so R2 and then the email correspondence is the only new evidence, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
There was another email, but it wouldn't open up. It was opening up in Outlook, but it's what he attached. Just his original email saying, "Good morning. I hope all is well. My office has been in continuous contact with the DEP. The process is slow, but is now coming to an end. I am attaching the latest email we received, wherein the DEP advises that the new rule in final version will be issued next month. My hearing is set for March 4. I will ask for another short continuance. Do you have an objection? Best, Ray."
All right, so that was submitted by the respondent via email?
Yes,
And
yeah.
that's not in your electronic case file?
It is in there, but it wasn't opening for
Oh, it
some
wasn't
reason.
opening,
Yes.
okay. All right, so Mr. Massarella, is that how you say it?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any objection to the documents that you've seen on the screen being entered into the record?
No?
All right, thank you. So with that, just so the procedural portion is complete, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files, Composite Exhibit 1, without objection. All right, and so let me ask the city attorney a question. So, and I think we talked about this a little bit at the last hearing, but I just want to make sure that I'm still clear. So my recollection of the prior discussion is that until the DEP publishes or adopts its final regulations, the city is allowed to enforce its current ordinance. If in fact the DEP does adopt its own regulations, there are requirements that also have to be met. Is that accurate, city attorney?
Yes, everything you said is accurate pursuant to Florida Statute 125, Section 572.
Okay. So, Mr. Massarella, I want you to understand, I just want to make sure that we're clear that I'm going to give you time to comply. The trouble is, and what I was very amenable to at the prior hearing, was giving you time because you're kind of in a process here where you're in limbo between the city's ability to enforce its current ordinance and the DEP getting through its rulemaking process, which, as you say, is a slow process, but that doesn't totally eliminate the city's ability to enforce its current regulations. So I'm trying to be equitable with you and not have you rip out what's there if these DEP regulations are imminent, which, based on your testimony and based on the correspondence from the DEP, sounds like that's remains the case. But I want you to understand that the DEP's adoption of those regulations, I don't know whether that means you can leave the artificial turf that you have there or not. There will have to be an evaluation of whether what you have in place meets the DEP's regulations.
I can say that the latest proposed rule that they've published, I would be in compliance.
Okay, very good. I just want to make sure you understood
Yeah,
that
no, I
there was
understand
another
that.
step there that has to be dealt with. So you're asking me for how much time?
60-day continuance?
Okay.
I mean, I have the same information. They say within a month. So I figure within a month, whether that's 30 days they meant or by the end of March, 60 days, I could, if they issue the rules, I already have a building permit application. I could just submit my specifications and move on. But again, I hate to come back in 60 days and tell you the DEP still hasn't adopted rules. As you note, I'm at the mercy of the DEP.
Yeah, that's true in one sense, but I just want to make sure you understand that as the law is written, the city can enforce its ordinance now.
I'm a lawyer, I understand.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that you're waiting for DEP, but that's a choice.
I'm with you, I get it, I understand.
All right, so I'm inclined to actually give you a little bit more time. I want you also to understand that at the last hearing, I didn't make a finding of violation. I just reset the matter. So
Yes, ma'am.
in this hearing, because another, 4 months have gone by, that was November's hearing?
November 5th, yes.
Right, I'm going to make a finding of violation because what I see in the photographs here and what I've heard from Mr. Pasmino, your grass is in a place where the city's code doesn't allow it to be, your artificial turf. So I'm going to make a finding of violation, but I'm going to give you sufficient time for the DEP's rules to get into effect so that, again, you don't have to rip it out and go through that process for no reason. I think that gets you what you need, and it also gets the city what it's asking me to do today, which is find you in violation, because based on the evidence before me, I can't not find you in violation at this point. But again, I'm going to give you enough time. So is there anything else you'd like me to hear?
Well, if that's the case, I would appreciate it. In an abundance of caution, I'm going to file a notice of appeal, just to make sure that, I don't know how much time you're proposing to give me. Do you have an idea?
I'm going to give you 180 days. I'm going to give you 6 months.
So I guess I'll address, I'd like a stay of that order so I could file a notice of appeal and make sure that I can get through that process, just in the event that this doesn't get done in 180 days. I would think it would, but to be honest with you, I thought this would all happen a lot sooner. This has been since last July they've been dealing with this. So you would think, when I look at this from the state point of view, it doesn't seem that complicated to me. I mean, synthetic grass is synthetic grass. Why it's taking them so long to, if you saw their proposed rules, they're not,
I have reviewed it.
it's not much to
yeah,
them, it's, why is this so difficult? So
it's a process, as
I
you
would
said.
like for you to stay the execution of that order so that I can, go through the appellate process.
Well, the difficulty is I haven't heard any evidence that you're not in violation of the city's code.
Okay, but I'm entitled to, as a matter of right, I'm entitled to file an appeal.
You are. Yeah, you absolutely are.
And I shouldn't be required to, rip it all out while my appeal's pending, because what good would a successful appeal be?
Well, I'm not even requiring you to comply. First of all, I haven't made my ruling, but what I'm suggesting to you is I'm going to give you 6 months. So you don't even have to comply with my order. You don't have to come into compliance until the end of that period. So you have 6 months to comply. Based on your testimony that you brought here today, you've indicated that the DEP is telling you that their rules will be adopted within 30 days from February 18th.
Which they've told me before,
well,
as I pointed out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else you'd like me to hear?
No, ma'am.
All right. Anything else from the city?
No, ma'am.
All right. Can the city clerk, can you put up the city's ordinance again? And city attorney, can you explain what your current ordinance requires or allows?
I'll rely on the subject matter expert, Officer Pazmito, to explain what the ordinance requires as far as artificial turf and what he's cited the property owner for.
Yeah. So the 3 sections are highlighted right there. The first one is 94-451A. The use and location of artificial turf shall be limited to the following. Subsection 4, on residential lots in the rear setback and side setback. So with this property, it is in the front setback. It's in a crisscross pattern between the pavers. 94-451D, with the exception of those circumstances in which artificial turf is installed pursuant to subsection A1 above, artificial turf shall not be, section 2, visible from a road or street. It's visible from the road and street. And then 94-451G is an owner or applicant shall obtain a duly authorized building permit from the city's Development Services Department prior to the installation of any artificial turf. Regarding that part, he did apply for the building permit for the current configuration of the artificial turf. It was denied following today's ordinance at the city. That may change once the adoption takes place.
And the reason for the denial?
Was these cited landscape sections. That it's visible from the street, road and street, and that it's limited to the rear and side setbacks.
Okay. And Mr. City Attorney, do you have the state law? Is that in the case file?
I
you have it with you?
believe it is. I think you were on it earlier. It's Florida Statute 125.572. I believe, Madam Clerk, you had it pulled up earlier. If you didn't, I will add it to the file, Magistrate.
I thought I saw it. Could you?
It's in his exhibit he submitted. I don't know if I submitted it myself, but I know
It's
it's
at
in
the
there.
end. Yeah, it's at the end of these
I
photographs.
have a
all the way
copy of it if you need it.
It's the second to last page.
There we go. All right, so that's 125.572, and it says, scroll down a little bit for me. A Upon the Department of Environmental Protection adopting rules pursuant to subsection 4, a local government may not adopt or enforce any ordinance, resolution, order, rule, or policy that prohibits or is enforced to prohibit a property owner from installing synthetic turf that complies with the DEP standards adopted pursuant to this section. So that says upon DEP adoption. And then the email correspondence from the DEP indicates that the rules have not been adopted, as does the testimony of the code enforcement officer. 62308.
That document was,
I'm sorry, Mr. Massarella, what were you saying?
yeah, I was just going to point out that regulation that I had submitted that you put up on the screen, that's not the current one. They've sort of.
That's an older
Yeah.
proposed version. Yep.
The latest version came out in January.
Yep. All right, anything further from the city?
No, ma'am.
All right, in case CE 25063712, I've entered the city's evidentiary case file as it relates to service for this morning's hearing, as I found at the prior November hearing, and again have reviewed the hand delivery for the November hearing that was in the case file, as well as Mr. Massarella's actual service as he was present at the November hearing, which set this matter for hearing again today, reset this matter for hearing today. And the additional mailing that was done by the city with my prior order from November, I'll find that the city had legal service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the photographs in the case file, which depict artificial turf in the front setback, as well as visible from the roadway, as testified to by the code enforcement officer, that the respondent is in violation of sections 94-451A4, 94-451D, and 94-451G. I'll note for the record that the evidence presented at this morning's hearing, despite the state law, which at some point will preempt the city from enforcing its ordinance, the Department of Environmental Protection's regulations have not been adopted as of this morning's hearing. So the city's ordinance remains in full force and effect. Based on the fact that the preemption has not yet gone into effect by virtue of the DEP's not formally adopting its regulations pertaining to artificial turf, I will require the respondent to comply with the listed code sections within 180 days, or a $50 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violation continues thereafter. So, Mr. Massarella, you get an order that reflects that.
I'm sorry?
You get a copy of an order that reflects that ruling, okay?
Okay, how about what is your ruling on my motion for stay?
I've made my ruling. I've given you the time to comply. You have your appellate rights under Chapter 162. I'm not making any ruling as it relates to that.
You're not going to rule on the stay motion?
I have not stayed anything, no, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next case number 12-431 52nd Street, CE 260-14585. Number 12-431 52nd Street.
Morning. Tony Apicella, Code Enforcement Officer of the City of West Palm Beach, in reference to case number 25124561. On 12/30/2025, while patrolling my assigned area, I discovered the property located at 410 49th Street. I initiated investigation and inspection of the property. Excuse me one second here. 410. During the inspection, I observed several violations. In fact, there were 10 initially cited. 6 of those have been voluntarily resolved. The remaining are
You said 410 49th Street, I think I heard you say.
I'm sorry?
Is this 431 52nd Street?
You said 410 49th Street, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the wrong one. Yes, it is. It's 431 52nd Street. I apologize. So that was on 1/7/26. I was patrolling my assigned area, discovered that a property located at 431 52nd Street, initiated investigation and inspection of the property. During the inspection, I observed the following violations. There were a total of 5, one of which has been resolved. I cited the property for 22-32-A, no certificate of use on file. 94-487-A-8, prohibited vehicle, that is the definition. 22-441, no rental license on file. 94-487-B-1, to remove the prohibited vehicle, i.e. it's a bus. These violations were documented through photographs and field notes which have been entered into the case. Photographs actually accurately depict my observances. Notice of violation was posted on the property on 1/30/26 and in City Hall. It was also sent via U.S. mail and registered mail on 2/20/26 and received on, it says 3/3/26. I made notes in reference to that. I did have several conversations with the property manager, which is Mr. Greg Ross Smith, on 2/17/26. He contacted me in reference to the violations cited. So apparently he did receive the service prior to March 3rd. I also have emails from him. Follow-up inspection was conducted on 2/27/26, at which time I determined the violations had not been corrected. As of 2/27/26, the property remains in violation. The city is requesting 60 days to comply, or $100 per day, one-time fee of $250 for the rental license, and the $100 a day will encompass the certificate of use and other pending violations.
Thank you. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony as evidence.
Mr. Apicella, when did you say you sent the certified mail?
It was sent on 2/20/26. I believe it says COVID, that one right there.
Well, that says January 28th.
Okay.
So that was the reason for my question.
What exactly happened was I initially, on the violation, I only quoted the prohibited vehicle definition and rewrote the NOV, reposted it with the actual ordinance. So 94-487-A-8 is just a definition. Subsection E there saying a bus. There's a bus parked in front of the property. So I rewrote it, adding 94-487-B-1 to that he would be required to remove said vehicle.
And did you repost then?
I did.
Okay.
The photos are in the case file, Your Honor. It was also, there should be a photo where it was posted at City Hall also on 1/30/26. Just a quick note, Your Honor, the rental license and COU have been applied for.
Okay.
They are just pending inspections.
Okay. All right, sir, what's your name?
I'm Brian DeVoe. I'm the tenant at 431 52nd Street.
I'm sorry, you're what?
Brian DeVoe. I am the tenant at 431 52nd Street.
You're the tenant, okay.
And I'm on the vehicle that's in violation, the bus.
All right, does the property owner know that you're here today?
Yes, but the property owner and the property manager, Greg, does know.
Okay. Okay. All right, so are you only responsible for the vehicle then, or are you also?
Only for the vehicle.
Okay. All right, and it's still there as of today?
It is still there as of today. I had came down here on the 26th and tried to submit a letter for a request of continuance for an extension to get it taken care of. I guess long story short is I purchased the vehicle cash from a private seller. I then found out later that I can't legally transfer the title into my name because the person who I purchased this from name isn't on the title and there's no more space on the title to actually put their name on it and sign it over to me. I went down to the law office on 2/6/2026, and I got this paperwork for a declaratory judgment. The declaratory judgment, first step of it is to go and get a vehicle identification. That's to get up then, I'm sorry. A motor vehicle identification number inspection. I was able to get an appointment at the tax office for tomorrow at 12:45, and that's the first step of the process. But I'm asking for 90 days because it's actually an 8-step process of documents I have to collect and submit, and then it's a 40-day process for them, a minimum 40-day process for this declaratory judgment to be approved and get the title signed over to me legally, at which point I can register the vehicle and move it. I can't even legally park it at like a storage place because I don't have the title legally in my name and it's not registered.
Okay. Okay, so that's the reason for,
And actually, I did start this process prior to moving into this residence because I purchased the vehicle previously. And before moving, that's one of the reasons that I moved here because I told them I had 2 vehicles. One of them was this shuttle bus that I'm gonna be converting into a mobile home. And it wasn't an issue, but I guess they didn't know that it was against code violation either. Otherwise, this wouldn't be.
when you say they, you mean the property owner?
Yes, the people who I rented the home
Okay.
from, I don't think they knew or understood that was a thing either. But that played a big part in why I ended up choosing this property to move into.
What, this is a single-family house?
Yes.
Okay.
I was thinking because it had a driveway and off the street, it wouldn't be an issue.
All right. What's the city's response to his request for 90 days?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, and then you don't have anything to do with the rental or the certificate of use, right? That's not you?
No, I just got to make it available for inspection.
Okay. So the documents that you've seen scrolling on the screen, do you have any objection to those being entered into the record?
No, I don't know if it's necessary, but I did have this letter that I tried to present the other week. I don't know if it's necessary, I guess based on how you rule, but this is just the official request for 90 days.
Yeah, you can give it to the code enforcement officer and he'll show it to the city attorney before I take a look at it. Okay, that one's not signed. Is there a signed copy of that one? That's the one I'm looking for. Perfect. Okay. And your evidence on rental, thank you. I guess they've admitted to renting by virtue of applying for the rental license now and the COU, right?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I've been in constant contact with the property manager.
Okay. All right. So, sir, any objection to the city's documents being entered?
No.
All right, and I'll I'll go ahead and enter the city's case file as composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll also admit, City Attorney, you had no objection to this document?
No objection.
All right, I'll admit your request, Mr. DeVoe, and marked it as Exhibit R2. Can the city keep a copy of this?
Yes, that's fair.
Okay. I'll enter your Exhibit R2 without objection from the city. Anything else you'd like me to hear, sir?
No.
Okay. Anything else from the city?
No, ma'am.
All right, and the one-time fee is just for 22,441, is that correct?
The rental license, yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. All right, with that, in case CE 26014585, I've entered the respective case files as composite exhibit 1 without objection and respondents exhibit R2 without objection. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file that the city had good service for today's hearing by virtue of the affidavits of posting in the case file. I'll find based on the photographs in the case file as well as the testimony of the code enforcement officer that the respondent's in violation of sections 2232A, 94,487A8, 22,441, and 94,487B1. For the violation of section 22,441 for the rental license, I'll assess a one-time fee of $250. And for the remaining code sections, 2232A, 94,487A8, and 94,487B1, I'll require a respondent to comply with those code sections within 90 days, or a $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter. So you have your 90 days. Do everything you can to get through the process then, okay?
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Question before I go. If I can prove that I submit, like if I'm proving submit everything, and for some reason that they don't approve it or it takes longer, what would be?
Keep in touch with the code enforcement officer. That's your best bet. Thank you, sir.
Number 17, 1364 7th Street, CE 26014764. Number 17, 1364 7th Street.
Good morning. Code Officer Weaver with the City of West Palm Beach. While patrolling in my zone, I observed several violations at 1364 7th Street. I took photos of the violations, which accurately and truthfully depict the violations observed. I initiated my investigation on January the 28th of 2026, citing multiple violations. The remaining violations are FBC 105.1, being no permit for installed pavers. 94-302-A-3, fence permit is needed for the installed fence. FBC 110.1, work subject to inspection for the pavers and the fence once completed. The notice of violation was posted at the property and City Hall on January the 30th of 2026. Certified and regular mail was sent on December the 23rd of 2025 to the mailing address listed on the property appraiser site. I revisited the property on March 3rd of 2026 and checked for permits in the system. The property is still in violation of the 3 violations previously listed. I originally hadn't spoken to the owner, but as of this morning, I did speak with the owner, and she applied for the fence permit back in January 26th of 24. It was never completed. So I advised her to complete the process as well as put in a permit for the pavers so that they can be inspected and all this, be completed.
You said she applied back in January of 2024?
Yes, ma'am.
And then it just sat in the system and?
Well, she didn't, they have to apply, they get it done, they have to get it re-inspected and all that, so the process was never completed.
Okay.
Sometimes people, under misconception, we just apply for it and they give me a permit and I'm done.
And it's done, yeah, okay.
Yes, ma'am. So we did have a conversation, so she now knows that the process has to be completed and the permit for the pavers applied for. She said she did buy the house with the pavers, so she's gonna be working on that as soon as she leaves here to get all that completed. So the city is requesting an additional 30 days or $100 a day until compliance is achieved.
Thank you. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony as evidence.
All right, your name, ma'am?
Nancy Arias.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you've heard what the city is saying. They're telling me that you need a permit for the fence and the pavers. You started the fence permit process but never got completed. So do you understand what you need to do to get into compliance? Mm-hmm. Okay. The city is opening the documents on the screen on both sides of behind me. Do you have any objection to these documents being entered into the record? They're the photographs of the alleged violations, the notice documents for today's hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Any objection to those being entered?
I don't understand a lot.
Okay. Let me ask the code enforcement officer, is 30 days a reasonable amount of time to get the permits and the inspections?
Well, for the fences, definitely, it's just completing the process and getting it inspected. What we can do is we can give her a little more additional time. So let's do 60 days.
Okay. And does she do this all in one permit?
No, she's gonna leave here and she's gonna do the permit for the pavers. Everything is already in, so.
So she can like reinstate the fence permit basically, and then she has to do a new permit for the
And then get the
pavers?
inspection done for both.
Okay. All right, do you understand that, ma'am?
Yeah,
Okay. Anything else you'd like me to hear?
no.
Okay, anything else from the city?
No, ma'am?
And the fence, just so I'm clear, was like it wasn't wood, right? It was metal, that white fence?
The metal, yes.
Okay. And the pavers were in the driveway?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right, in case CE 26014764, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case file as composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include an affidavit of posting, that the city had good service for this morning's hearing. I'll find based on the photographs in the case file, as well as the testimony of the code enforcement officer, that the respondents are in violation of sections 105.1, 110.1, and 94302A3. And I'll require the respondents to comply with those sections within 60 days, or a $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter. So, ma'am, I'm giving you 60 days. You need to get the permits within 60 days, and that means permits issued and all inspections completed, okay?
Okay.
All right, good luck to you, ma'am. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Number 14, 619 48th Street, CE 25124501. Number 14, 619 48th Street.
Good morning. My name is Alessio Carulli, Code Enforcement Officer for the City of West Palm Beach. Property at 619 48th Street was cited by the former assigned zone officer Andrew Jacks on 12/15/2025. Property was cited for multiple property maintenance violations. I re-inspected the property with my supervisor on 2/20/2026. We made contact with the property owner, discussed the code enforcement case, and observed the property not to be in compliance with the following code section: 78-94-C, which is the swales and parkways. So I observed the swale and parkway are bare and not to have any sod or approved ground cover. The city issued a notice of violation to the property owner, which identified the violations, the corrective actions, and notice of today's hearing. The notice of violation, notice of hearing sent via certified mail and regular mail on 12/17/2025, and received and signed on 12/20/2025. The notice of violation was posted at the property on 12/15/2025. A completed affidavit of posting dated 12/15/2025 is in the case file. I took photos when I re-inspected the property. These photos accurately and truthfully depict the violations that I observed during my investigation. The property owner, Henry Protege, which is here with us today, we made contact with the owner while re-inspecting, and we came to an agreement to request additional time on behalf of the property owner, approved by my supervisor. So this city is requesting 60 days to comply, or a fine of $100 per day until the compliance is achieved.
Thank you, sir. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony as evidence.
All right, it looks like the photos show a lot of other violations, but a bunch of things fell off and got complied. Is that accurate? So
Accurate.
the only thing that's outstanding is the bare swale?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. What's your name, sir?
Henry Porteous.
All right, the city is opening the documents on the screens. Do you have any objection to these documents being entered into the record?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And you understand what you need to do to get into compliance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the city is telling me that you're in agreement that you can get the swale sodded within 60 days, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Anything else you'd like me to hear?
Yeah, I have a question. There is a huge tree in front of my gate. I think it's a mahogany tree, and it causing a lot of problem there. Last time a breeze blew and it fell and tear down my fence, and I did get a citation for that. I have to fix that myself. And even I put down grass under it like over 10 times. I've been there like 30 odd years. Every time I put grass down there, it kill it.
Okay.
So, you know, see, I don't know.
Does the city want to respond to that?
Well, when my supervisor and I went, the tree is on I believe it's the city property. It is. Yeah, it's on the city property, so he won't be able to trim or cut down. Is that correct?
The city's recommendation is the Bahia sod, the highway grass that is drought resistant, should survive in that area. That's what the landscape planners recommend.
Okay, based on that amount of shade, the
Yes.
planners recommend that kind of sod as it can survive with that amount of shade?
Yes.
Okay, do you understand that, sir?
Yes.
You understand what kind of grass you need to plant so that it can survive the shade?
Okay.
Okay. All right, anything else from the city?
No, ma'am.
All right, in case CE 25124501, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include an affidavit of posting as well as signed certified mail that the city had good service for this morning's hearing. I'll find based on the photographs in the case file and the testimony of the code enforcement staff that the respondent's in violation of sections 7894C, and I'll require respondents to comply with that section within 60 days or $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violation continues. So get this sod planted and then make sure you call the code enforcement officer once it's complied to come out and do an inspection and hopefully give you an affidavit of compliance, okay?
Okay.
All right, good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Number 19706 7th Street, CE 250941117. Number 19706 7th Street.
Good morning. Richard Pazmino, City of West Palm Beach Code Enforcement. The property at 706 7th Street was the most current notice violation was dated February 6, 2026. This case was discovered by the inspector assigned to the area. The current notice was posted at the property on February 9th, 2026. The completed affidavit of posting is in file. The notice of violation, notice of hearing was sent via certified and regular mail on February 10th, 2026. It was signed and delivered on February 21st, 2026. The property was cited for 18103I, 18105I for condition of structures, equipment. Specifically, the air conditioning was not functioning correctly or supplying heat. 18106E for exterminate. The property is a rental property. There was insects in the oven, on the dining room wall, kitchen floor, termite droppings throughout the property. 18105C, 18103C for interior walls, floors, and ceilings. Specifically for the section saying every interior partition, wall, floor, and ceiling shall be reasonably tight and maintained in a workman's state of repair and in a clean and sanitary condition. The vents on the windows, the vents on the AC vents are dirty, stained, and have residue buildup. I re-inspected the property yesterday. I made contact with the tenants on March 3rd and re-inspected and observed all the violations are outstanding. I met with the representative this morning, discussed the violations and how to comply them. The city's recommending 30 additional days to comply the violations at the property. If not, we're asking for a fine of $250 a day until compliance is achieved. So there are multiple notice of violations in there. The most recent current one for today's hearing is number 5. Pull it up. The re-inspection photos were taken by me, and they accurately depict what I observed with the violations.
Thank you, sir. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony as evidence.
That's the tracking, yeah. Yeah, so the one that has 5, like affidavit posting 5. Everything with 5 is related to this hearing. So there were some like rescheduling issues with paperwork. That's why this case had some delay. I think it originally started in September. But there was like rescheduling issues.
Maybe the next one down. Nope, up the middle one. Yeah. Maybe that's a signed copy. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that's the posting, February 9th.
Okay. All right, what are your names?
Good morning. My name is Tatiana Valeriano, and I'm speaking on behalf of my grandfather, Felix Rio, due to a language barrier. The other owner, Ronald Rio, he was supposed to be here, but he has health issues, and he just got admitted into the hospital yesterday and has surgery this morning, so that's why I'm here speaking. Yes.
All right, and those individuals are the owners of F&R Finish?
Yes, Felix
Carpentry?
Rio and
Okay.
and Ronald Rio.
All right, so you've heard what the city is saying. The photographs show some pretty significant issues. You're aware of them and you understand what you need to do to comply?
Yes, they do. So already for the extermination 18106E, they have a pest control company going out there. And the initial treatment was October 15th of 2025, and they have been doing bi-monthly pest services every other month. So in this letter that I have here, that I believe I will send to him so he can provide that for you guys, the tenants are actually not allowing the pest control people to come inside to continue their duty. So that's one thing, but they have been going. I'm not sure when exactly they stopped, but in the letter, it does say, we are preventing outside and until the tenants let us in to follow up and spray inside, in which they will not allow us in when we show up. So that is one thing, but we have the letter showing that the exterminator has been going out there since October. And then as far as the AC, we are asking for 30 days to have a licensed AC technician go out to provide that report and maintenance and sanitize and clean the AC vents, and as well as do a repair of the whole AC unit. And we already have a person for that as well.
Okay.
And also the tenants, I believe, will be leaving April 1st. And my grandparents, they have told me that every time they try to go, that they will not let them in at all, as far as I know.
Did this come as a complaint from the tenants?
Yes, the tenants were the original complainants. There were original issues, but these 3 issues are what's remaining.
Yes, at one point, they actually did stop paying rent as well completely, and that's when my grandparents, they decided to do an eviction since they weren't paying the rent anymore, and I believe that's why, they did all these complaints to try to, since there's not a good relationship between them anymore.
Okay. And what's 18105C, Mr. Pasmino, and 18103C, what has to be done to comply those? The AC's part.
Yeah, so that was used specifically for the maintain in a workman's state of repair and in a clean and sanitary condition. Clean and sanitize the AC vents.
Okay, so that's
and
relative to the
remove the
AC.
buildup residue.
Okay.
My uncle has also told me that they have not been doing their duty to maintain the AC filter, how they have to change and clean it every month, that they have not been doing that at all as well.
Okay.
And they have been living there for over a year now. So when they first moved in, none of this was an issue.
All right. And was her pest control statement in your case file, Mr. Pasmino?
The one she showed me today was dated March 2nd. I haven't seen, she showed it me in person. I asked her to email it to me.
Okay. Can you give that, can the city have a copy of that?
Yes, of course. I believe I have another one in here, so you guys can keep this one. Make sure.
And that's from a couple days ago?
March 2nd.
March 2nd, yes.
Yesterday, the day before.
It does state in here that the initial treatment was done October 5th, so it has been already months since the treatment.
And compliance with that code section, Mr. Pasmino, doesn't occur until the
Till
pests
the
are gone.
treatment is continued and they're gone, yeah.
Okay.
Treated.
And on your most recent inspection, they were still,
They were still present, yes. They were in the oven and running inside the cabinets.
okay. Thank you. Any objection to this being entered? All right, thank you. So this speaks to roaches. Is somebody else dealing with the termites?
The termites, I'm not up to date with that. I'm not sure if they did any treatments on that.
Okay. Well, just make sure you understand that that's part of this violation too. So you won't get complied until all evidence of termite infestation is gone as well. So
Okay.
if these people are not looking at that, make sure you get somebody to address that as well, because you're going to have an issue with compliance
Of course,
on that
I'll
as
let
well.
them know that
Okay.
and ask if termites están haciendo algo para termites. Yes, actually, my grandfather did say that someone did go out for termites, but they have yet to release the document showing that they have gone there.
Okay. All right. Do you all have any objection to the documents that you've seen on the screen being entered into the record?
¿Tienes una objeción para esos documentos? No.
All right. Thank you. And I heard you say earlier you can get all these items complied within 30 days. That's accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And keep in touch with the code enforcement officer if you have any issues that delay that.
Maybe 30 to 45 days, just because the tenants, they are leaving April 1st, and my grandparents, they have trouble going into the unit since they won't let them in. And as you can see in the letter as well for the pest, they're not letting them in either. I'm not sure why, but I know they do leave April 1st, but they said they could have it done within 30 days.
All right, I'm going to give you 45 just to make sure.
Thank you.
But these are severe violations, so it's in your best interest to get them resolved because
As soon as
they're not
possible.
helping the condition of your property at all.
Okay.
All right, anything further from the city?
No, ma'am.
All right. Anything further from you, ma'am?
No, thank you.
All right, in case CE 25094117, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files, composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll enter respondent's exhibit from O'Hara Landscape irrigation and pest control services, I marked that as R2. I'll enter that as Exhibit R2 without objection. I'll find based on the photographs and documents in the case file, which include an affidavit of posting and signed certified mail, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the photographs in the case file and the testimony by the code enforcement officer that the respondents in violation of sections 18103I, 18105I, 18106E, 18105C, and 18103C, and I'll require a respondent to comply with those sections within 45 days, or a $250 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter. So just like you heard me tell the prior respondent, when you have all the items complied, make sure you communicate with Mr. Pasmino so he can do a reinspection, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
Number 13, 614 40th Street, CE 260145998. Number 13, 614 40th Street.
Good morning. My name is Celeste Carulli, Code Enforcement Officer with the City of West Palm Beach. January 8th, 2026, observed the property at 614 40th Street to be in violation of the following ordinances. So it's 18-106-B, which is excessive growth. I observed the excessive growth on the front, side, back, and alley of the property. 94-446-2-E, which is edge. I observed the property to be in needing of edging on the front, back, and side of the alleyway. And then 94-482-A, which is parking. Observed the property with a vehicle being stored on the side of the house on the grass. So the city issued notice of violation to the property owner, which identified the violations, my contact information, and notice of today's hearing. The notice of violation, notice of hearing was sent via certified mail and regular mail on 1/15/2026, received and signed on 1/28/2026. The notice of violation was posted on the property on 1/9/2026. The affidavit, completed affidavit of posting, and is in the case file as well. So we did take photos at the initial investigation. When we revisited the property, these photos accurately and truthfully depict the violations I observed during the investigation. I've had many contacts with the homeowner currently, who both are asking for 30 days to comply, or a $100 fine per day until compliance is achieved.
Thank you, sir. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony into evidence.
And was paint part of the violation, or did that comply?
That is complied.
That's complied,
Yeah.
okay. So it's just overgrowth in the parking and edging?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right, your name, ma'am?
Crystal Wildman.
All right, so you've heard what the city is saying. They're telling me that you think you can get all these items complied in 30 days?
Yes.
Okay. The documents that you see scrolling on the screen, do you have any objection to those documents? Okay. Anything else you'd like me to hear?
No.
Anything further from the city?
No, ma'am.
All right, in case CE 26014598, I'll admit this city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find based on the notice documents for today's hearing, which include signed certified mail as well as an affidavit of posting that the city service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the photographs in the case file as well as the testimony of the code enforcement officer that the respondent's in violation of sections 94-482A, 18106B, and 94-446-2E, and I'll require a respondent to comply with those sections within 30 days, or a $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue. So just like you heard me tell the previous people, as soon as you have the items complied, call him so he can do a reinspection, okay? All right, good luck, ma'am. Thank you.
Number 2712 20th Street, CE 260146110. Number 2712 20th Street.
And good morning, Donald Lattimore, City of West Palm Beach Code Enforcement. This property was reported to the Code Enforcement Division as a complaint from the tenant. The property is occupied. I initiated my initial inspection on December 31st of 2025 and cited the property for multiple violations. The city issued a notice of violation to the property owner, which identified the violations, my contact information, and notice of this hearing date. I posted the notice of violation at the property in City Hall on January 13th of 2026. I also completed an affidavit of posting on January 13th of 2026. The notice of violation was noticed by certified and regular mail on January 21st of 2026 by the city's clerk. I completed a re-inspection on March 3rd, 2026, and was granted permission by the tenant to only inspect the exterior of the property. During the inspection, I observed the exterior of the property not to be in compliance with all of the code, with all of the exterior violations that were cited for. And since I was not allowed to inspect the inside of the property, all of the interior violations also failed during the inspection. As a result, the property is not in compliance with the following violations. There are multiple, so I'll say them slowly. 18101M, maintain a clean and sanitary living environment. The tenant was cited for this violation. 18102-3, to repair and replace the window screens. There are multiple screens missing throughout the home. 18102B, to repair the exterior foundation, roof, and wall. There are several pieces of rotten wood and damage to the sides of the roof, and also the exterior structure, primarily among the plumbing that's located in the back of the home. 18103C, to repair the bathroom door. The bathroom door in the inside of the unit is damaged, broken. 18103E, to repair and seal the front door and windows. The front door is not properly sealed. It's not properly attached to the structure. And the windows, especially in the back of the home, are not properly sealed. 18103G, to repair and replace the plumbing fixtures and pipes. There is severe plumbing issues at the home. The plumbing is actually working, but it's draining, moving slow, and as of yesterday when I completed my inspection, there was a foul odor that was coming from the plumbing in the back of the home with indication that there is a leak from the plumbing, as indicated on the ground as well. And then there's also a feature of the plumbing inside of the yard on the side of the home that is uncapped, and debris is just falling into that uncapped plumbing feature. Property was also cited for 18997A, to repair and replace the kitchen stove. It's not properly working. 744B, to remove the white good that is stored on property. In this particular case, that white good is a washing machine that's stored in the back of the home. 786-7, to add and replace the address characters. I do not believe that, well, the address characters are not properly placed on the structure. 22-32A, to obtain a certificate of use from the city of West Palm Beach, which corresponds to 22-441, to obtain a rental license from the city of West Palm Beach. This property does not have the appropriate rental license and certificate of use from the city of West Palm Beach. I took the photographs at the initial investigation and when I revisited the property. And these photographs accurately and truthfully depict the violations I observed during my investigation. The property owner is present, and I have been in contact with the property owner throughout this entire process. There is some issues with gaining access to the home between the property owner and the tenant, which, since he's here, I'll definitely let him explain. But with that being said, the property owner is requesting additional time to comply. The city is requesting 90 days to comply, and if compliance is not achieved, the $100 per day fine.
Thank you. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony into evidence.
All right, your name, sir?
Esperando.
And what's your relation to Easy Go Pro LLC?
I'm the owner.
You're the owner, okay. So you've heard what the city is saying. There's quite a list of violations.
Yes.
Go ahead. What's the status of your coming into compliance?
So just I'm not sure like how like in 5 months she's destroyed the house, and no one, like she's very difficult. Like she doesn't give access. She even like tell my handyman to not come like outside. He doesn't give access inside. She doesn't wanna give access outside. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to do like the repairs. She's very, even myself, like I told her, I text her like on Saturday morning, I told her like I'm coming, so is it possible for me to visit like outside and also inside? She said, no, that's not gonna happen.
Okay.
If I may, Special Magistrate, the property owner did provide documentation.
Yeah, I sent her
It's
like,
just in the case file and showing that he has been trying to gain access to the interior portion of the home. That's the documentation on the screen now.
she said no. So, and also I sent it, when the first time she called me, she said there's mold. I sent a guy, like a handyman, to check like what's going on. The handyman tell me like, oh, maybe it might be through the doors or window, let me go check. She said no. But she called me for repairs, but she doesn't want, and at the same time she doesn't want to give me access to do the repairs.
Yeah, that's unfortunately that's something you're going to have to solve. Whether you need to get your attorney involved, but you're on the hook for these violations. So hopefully your lease agreement deals with some of those issues. But
yeah, of course.
yeah, you're going to have to deal with that with her. It's certainly disingenuous on her part to complain to the city about the condition and then not let you in or let your handyman in or your workmen. That's not ideal, but that doesn't change the fact that the photographs show some pretty significant issues that need to be corrected. So I would encourage you to it sounds like you have an uphill climb, but you're going to have to get there somehow. What is she in there for a long? She's not moving out anytime soon.
I think she already completed 5 months. There's like another like 6, 7 months.
So she's in there. The city's asking me to give you 90 days to fix these items.
So I think I'll need time to maybe do an eviction.
Got to request it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I'll need, if she doesn't let me, the contractor, she has to leave the house. It has to be an eviction.
Yeah, that again, you're gonna have to.
Whereas like she had a sponsor, like Adobe Family, inspect the house before she moving 3 times and make me repair, like give me recommendation, and I do all the repairs before she move in. And after she move in, she told me like, oh, the dryer is not working. So I bought the dryer for her. So she never, and I don't know how she destroyed the house. Everything was working.
The joys of being a landlord, sir. All right, how much time do you think you need?
Time to get her out of the property, and maybe another 60 days to get somebody to repair like the whole house.
All right, and the certificate of use and the rental license, those are within your sole control, right? So you can get those things done. I'll split the order. What's the city's response to his request for additional time?
So the city definitely, after hearing his testimony, recognized that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. In regards to the rental license, yes, he can obtain the rental license, but the inspection will not pass until some of the other violations are complied, because right now, as it stands, the property does not meet minimum housing standards.
Okay, so they're all tied together,
They're all tied together. And so the city is open to additional time.
All right, I'll give you 120 days, but you're going to need to start now with the eviction process. You should be able to get through that in 90 days, but I'll give you 120 just to make sure. But I would encourage you to start that very soon.
Like today.
Because as he said, I was originally going to bifurcate the order and have you do the things that you can do, but if there's an inspection required and you're not going to pass the inspection, she's not going to let the inspector in. There's no point in separating those out. So I'll keep them all together. And then I guess from the city's perspective, if in those 120 days, if he communicates that he needs an extension, is that possible?
That is correct. And that extension would follow the chain of command. It will be very supportive if documentation to show progress being made to comply the case for the additional time.
All right, so what I wanted to make sure from the city is that if you do everything that you are supposed to do and you initiate your eviction process or whatever process you're going to go through to get her to help facilitate compliance, if you do everything on your end and at 119 days you are not there and you present evidence to the city showing that you did everything you could to get complied and you need more time, they're inclined to make a request for additional time. But if you don't do anything until the 119th day and then you email them, you're not going to get the same
If I travel
extension.
all the way to come here.
Yeah,
I'm from Boston. I come here just
for this. I appreciate this. And it's in your best interest to get these things fixed because, as you say, she's not helping the condition of your property. All right, anything else you'd like me to hear, sir?
No, that's it.
All right, do you have any objection to the documents that you've seen on the screen being entered into the record?
I will make sure that they repaired.
Okay. All right, anything further from the city?
No.
All right, in case CE 26014610, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include signed certified mail as well as an affidavit of posting, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the photographs in the case file and the testimony of the code enforcement officer that the respondent's in violation of sections 1897-9, 74-4B, 18103E, 22441, 18103B, 7867, 2232A, 18101, 18103C, 18102-3, 18103G, and 18105G. And I'll require respondent to comply with those sections within 120 days or a $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter. Good luck to you, sir, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all we have for contested matters. Number 1, 963 31st Street, CE 26014626.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Neil Maharaj, City of West Palm Beach Code Enforcement Officer. Case number is CE 26014626 to the property of 963 31st Street. This violation was issued on January 13th, 2026 to the owner of Bismuth Propco Series LLC in care of Corporation Service Company. While researching my assigned properties on the delinquent BTR list for 2026, I confirmed that the subject property had an outstanding fines due for both their rental license and certificate of use. After further research, I determined that there is a new ownership of the property with no rental license or certificate of use. I went ahead and issued 2 violations to the property owner for not having an active rental license and the certificate of use. Renting was confirmed by matching of the current tenant's water bill, which is attached to the case files. As a result, the following violations remain not in compliance. 22-32-A for the certificate of use, and 22-441 for the rental license, BTR. Certified mail was delivered on January 31st, 2026. The NOV was posted on January 14th, 2026, and the affidavit of posting was notarized in the case files. I have conducted a progress inspection in the system as of this morning before this hearing, and I have observed in the system that the license was applied for on February 4th, 2026, under the new ownership to match property appraiser, and I have attached to the case files a screenshot showing inspections awaiting before it is issued. The inspections that are required are on the city's behalf, and it is the responsibility of the property owner to set up those appointments. So the city is requesting 30 days to comply or a $100 fine per day.
Thank you, sir. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony into evidence.
So I'm not sure I followed the rental portion. Who's renting? Is it, or who doesn't have the license? Is it Bismuth Propco?
Yes, they're the owner of the property, they're renting it out,
Okay,
and they don't have a rental license or the certificate of use. It's hand in hand.
okay. And what you're saying was that there was a prior owner of that site that had
Yes.
one last year?
Yeah, that's the one that ended up on our list that we received for people who have outstanding balances.
Okay.
And then when I further researched on Property Appraiser, I noticed that this is the new current owner, and it's still being rented, and they've never had a rental license or
Okay.
certificate of use.
What kind of building is this? Is it a,
This is a home.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And was there a signed affidavit of posting in there?
Yeah, it should be in there. That's the draft. So that's my copy. There should be under from Brenda.
There we go.
Here.
Okay. And have you had any communication with the respondents?
I have not, but I see that they've started the process.
Started the process, so that's good. Your process is working. All right, anything further?
Nope.
All right, in case CE 26014626, for the record, the respondent is not present. I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include both an affidavit of posting and a signed certified mail, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the testimony of the code enforcement officer, as well as the documents in the case file, that the respondent's in violation of sections 2232A and 22441. I'll require a respondent to comply with those code sections within 30 days, or a $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter.
Thank you.
Number 3, 842 Flamingo Drive, CE 26014602.
Good morning. Raphael Forrester, Code Enforcement Officer for the City of West Palm Beach. This property was cited on 1/8/26 and posted on 1/9/2026. Service was accomplished by certified mail and regular mail sent on 1/12/26. I have been in contact with the owner of the property. This property had several violations which now are in compliance. However, one violation remains. The violation that remains is 9471C, outdoor storage. At my pre-hearing, I observed outside storage in the carport, and it's visible to the public. All photos were taken by me and accurately and truthfully depict the violations when observed. As of 3/2/26, the property has not come into compliance. Therefore, the city is asking for an additional 30 days to come into compliance. If they do not come into compliance, then the city is asking for $50 a day fine until compliance is achieved.
Thank you. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony into evidence.
All right, so the items in the carport remain on reinspection?
Yes,
Okay. Any communication with the respondents?
absolutely, yeah.
That you have, okay.
Constant communication.
So they understand. It's surprising they didn't fix the easy part.
They're doing the inside of the flooring inside the house, so I had to take everything out,
Okay,
put it into the carport.
okay. All right, anything further?
No.
I guess I just need to see the affidavit of posting is all I need to see. All right, perfect, thank you. All right, in case CE 26014602, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find, based on the notice documents in the case file, which include signed certified mail as well as an affidavit of posting that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find, based on the photographs in the case file as well as the testimony of the code enforcement officer, that the respondent's in violation of section 9471C. I'll note for the record, I should have done this at the beginning, that the respondent's not present. I'll require a respondent to comply with that code section within 30 days, or a $50 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter.
Thank you.
Number 5, 3617 Eastview Avenue, CE 25104159.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Neil Maharaj, City of West Palm Beach Code Enforcement Officer, case number CE 25104159. Property 3617 Eastview Avenue, issued on October 7th, 2025 to the owner, Cote Judy C. I was assigned this case by Supervisor Richard Pazmino since the issuing officer, Andrew Jacks, is no longer employed with the city. Supervisor Richard Pazmino conducted a reinspection as of yesterday, March 3rd, 2026, and observed that the following violations remain open at the property, not in compliance. 94-442-C-1, for the front lawn must be grass or sod replaced. 78-94-C, which is for the swales and parkways in need of grass or sod. Certified mail was delivered on October 14th, 2025. The NOV was posted October 7th, 2025 by the previous issuing officer, and the affidavit of posting was notarized and should be in the case files. I personally have had no contact with the property owner. The city is requesting 30 days to comply or $100 fine per day.
Thank you. And just a quick question: did you take any of these photos, or did you accompany Officer Pazmino?
I did not, but I met with him afterwards, and we both understood that these violations remained. He is here.
Just a quick question for Officer Pazmino. Thank you for making yourself available. I just want to ask you, just to make sure that you, did you take the photos from March 3rd?
I took the March 3rd reinspection photos, which showed the violations still exist.
Okay, and those photos are a fair and accurate representation of the property as you observed it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for that testimony. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including photos and testimony as evidence.
All right, and it's just the grass in the front yard and in that swale area under the tree, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, anything further from the city?
No.
All right, in case CE 2501, no, excuse me, CE 25104159, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find, based on the notice documents in the case file, which include signed certified mail, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the photographs in the case file as well as the testimony of the code enforcement officer that the respondent's in violation of sections 94-442C1 and 78-94C. And I'll require a respondent to comply with those code sections within 30 days or $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter.
Thank you.
Number 6, 1781 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard, W213, CE 26014655.
Good morning, Kishana Watson Foster, Code Enforcement Officer with the City of West Palm Beach. 1781 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard, W213, was referred to me by the Development Services Delinquent BTR list, which business is Lacoste. The unit was cited for A2-144 business tax receipt being outstanding as of September 30th, 2024, and 22-32-A certificate of use, which expired September 30, 2024. I initiated my investigation on January 16th, 2026. The city issued a notice of violation, which identified violations, my contact information, and provided notice of today's hearing. The notice was mailed by regular and certified mail on February 24, 2026 by the city clerk. The certified mail was received and signed for on February 28, 2026. In addition, the notice of violation was hand-delivered and posted on City Hall on January 30, 2026 and February 13, 2026. I completed an affidavit of posting on both dates, which is included in the case file. As of this morning, the business remains outstanding as BTR fees are not paid. At this time, the city is requesting a 15-day grant, 15 days to comply. If not complied, there's a one-time fine for section 82-144 of $250 and a daily fine of $100 for section 22-32-A.
Thank you, ma'am. Special Magistrate of the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony as evidence.
So you are asking for the 15 days of compliance for both sections?
Correct.
Okay. So they have all that's outstanding is the fee?
Correct. They just need to pay the renewal fee, which was never paid for last year and the year before.
Okay. And the business is still operating in that location?
That's correct.
Okay.
Oh, that's the same.
Did you have any communication with the respondent?
Yes, there's an email in the case file as well where they did reach out to me and I did respond that they just needed to pay fees.
Okay. All right. Anything further?
Oh, ma'am.
All right, in case CE 26014655, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case file as composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll note for the record that the respondent is not present. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include signed certified mail, an affidavit of posting, verification of hand delivery, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the testimony of the code enforcement officer as well as the documents in the case file that the respondent's in violation of sections 82-144 and 22-32A. For code section 82-144, I'll require the respondents to comply within 15 days or assess a one-time fine in the amount of $250. For code section 22-32A, I'll require a respondent to comply with that section within 15 days or $100 per day fine will be assessed for each day that the violation continues thereafter.
Number 7, 1710 45th Street, CE 26014704.
Kishana Watson Foster, Code Enforcement Officer with the City of West Palm Beach. 1710 45th Street was referred to me by the Development Services delinquent list. This business is Brazilian Secrets. It was cited for A2-144 business tax receipt being outstanding as of September 30th, 2023, and 22-32-A certificate of use, which expired September 30, 2023. I initiated my investigation on January 23rd, 2026. The city issued a notice of violation which identified violation, my contact information, and provided notice of today's hearing. The notice was mailed by regular mail on February 24, 2026 by the city clerk. The certified mail was unable to be delivered as of yesterday. In addition, the notice of violation was hand-delivered and posted on City Hall on February 13, 2026. I completed an affidavit of posting which is located in the case file. As of this morning, it is still outstanding. This business continues to be repeated on being on the delinquent list. At this time, the city is asking for 15 days to comply. If not, a one-time fine of $254 Section A2-144 and a daily fine of $100 for 22-32-A.
Thank you. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony, into evidence.
So is this the same thing, they didn't pay their renewal?
Correct.
Okay,
But
and the
he's
business was,
outstanding as of 2023.
and the business is still there?
Correct.
And it was there in 2023?
Correct. So it's a penalty that's still incurring.
Okay. All right, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right, in case CE 2601-4704, for the record, the respondent is not present. I'll enter the city's evidentiary case file as composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find, based on the notice documents in the case file, which include an affidavit of posting and confirmation of hand delivery and signature, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find, based on the documents in the case file as well as the testimony of the code officer, that the respondent's in violation of sections 82-144, 82-32A. For code section 82-144, I'll require a respondent to comply within 15 days or assess a fine of one-time fine in the amount of $250. For section 22-32A, I'll require a respondent to comply within 15 days or a $100 a day fine will be assessed for each violation continues thereafter.
Thank you.
Number 8525 Franklin Road, CE 26024883.
Good morning. My name is Yasmin Law. I am a code officer for the City of West Palm Beach. While I'm conducting a delinquent list checklist for BTRs, the property at 525 was delinquent for their BTR being unpaid since 2023. I discovered it. The case was created on February 10th, 2026. The codes were 22-441 and for the rental housing permit, and then 22-32 for certificate of use. The city issued a notice of violation to the property owner, which identified the violations, my contact information, and the notice of this hearing. The notice was sent certified mail on February 25th, 2026 by the city's clerk. I posted the NOV at the property on November 10th, 2026, and I completed the affidavit of posting on February 10th, 2026, and it is in the case file. I have not had any contact with the property owner, and I am requesting 10 days to comply or a $100 a day fine thereafter.
Thank you. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony into evidence.
And certified mail was signed for, okay. You said you posted it in November?
February 10th.
February, I'm sorry, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and what's the evidence of rental?
The water bill as well as the tenants were there as well. It's a duplex.
Okay. Any communication with the respondent?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And what are you seeking? Compliance by when?
10 days or a $100 daily fine thereafter.
Okay, thank you. All right, was there a posting affidavit that I missed in there? Perfect, thank you. All right, in case CE 260248883, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case file as composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include signed certified mail as well as an affidavit of posting, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the testimony of the code officer and the documents in the case file that the respondent's in violation of sections 22441 and 2232A. You just want 2232 generally, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
2232 all. I'll require a respondent to comply with those sections within 10 days, or a $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter.
Number 9, 215 Beverly Road, CE 260248884.
Good morning. My name's Yasmin Law, and I'm the code officer for the city of West Palm Beach, Florida. While conducting the same business tax receipt checklist, the property at 215 Beverly Road was found delinquent. On February 10th, I have had multiple contact with the property owner. She's out of the country, but she's been out of the country for a while. We have spoken telephonically and via email, but it is for delinquent business tax receipts, so 22-32. The notice of violation was mailed out on February 10th, 2026, and I posted the notice of violation to the property on February 10th, 2026, and the affidavit of posting was on February 10th, 2026. I've had contact with the property owner. I've sent her over the link to actually pay the fee along with her business ID number. However, she's yet to pay it, and the city's requesting 10 days to comply or $100 a day fine thereafter.
Thank you. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony and evidence.
And I heard you say 2232, but you're also seeking violation of 22441?
Yes. So the issue is that the property owner states that the property is not being rented. However, I have spoken to Airbnb guests who've been there. And so you are renting the property, but I sent her originally supposed to be a non-rental. And I just have never gotten the information back. And when I spoke to her one time, she said she wasn't renting it, and then she admitted she was still on Airbnb, but has now removed the property from Airbnb.
Were you able to confirm that?
That it's been removed?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No, okay. Okay. And what is did they have to do a non-rental affidavit or something?
Yes, ma'am, if it's no longer rental.
And you don't have that?
No, ma'am, but I've sent her all the documentation to do it.
Okay. All right, so you are seeking to proceed with 22441 as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, this seems like easy things to correct. All right, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right, in case CE 260248884, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include an affidavit of posting, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the testimony of the code enforcement officer as well as the documents in the case file that the respondent's in violation of sections 22441 and 2232. I'll require a respondent who's not present here today to comply with those sections within 10 days, or a $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter.
Number 10, 345 30th Street, Unit 3004, CE 26014576.
Good morning, Tony Apicella, Code Officer with the City of West Palm Beach. For case number CE 26014576. I responded to this property on 12/24/26 in response to a complaint from the tenant. It's located at 345 30th Street, unit number 4. I initiated investigation and inspection of the property. During the inspection, I observed violations of the city ordinances. Those violations are 18103-C, the interior walls and ceilings were not repaired in a workmanlike fashion, and 18103-H, the toilet, bathroom, and kitchen floors did not appear to be impervious to water. These violations were documented through photographs and field notes, which have been entered into the case file. The photographs accurately depict my observances. Notice of violation was posted on the property on 1/8/26. Also sent U.S. mail, registered mail on 1/7/26, and hand-delivered and signed for on the same date. The registered mail was received on 2/3/26. Your Honor, I have not been able to re-inspect, although I have been in constant contact with Elaine Delgado, who is the property manager. I've made several attempts via phone calls and emails to contact the tenant so that I could get in to re-inspect. The property manager has done the same. Our conversation yesterday with the property manager was that the tenant does not allow them access unless it's to serve her a better purpose. So the property manager did inform me that work has been done and that she was supposed to send me photographs of it, not that it would help, but I never received the photographs. She was also going to try to contact the tenant to have the tenant at least call me or send some sort of correspondence stating that she did not wish to move forward with this and that the property manager has complied to her satisfaction. So the city is requesting another 30 days to try to make contact and gain entry to verify whether the work's been done or not, or $100 per day until compliance is achieved.
Thank you. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony into evidence.
So you gave them time to comply in your notice of violation, but you haven't been able to re-inspect.
Correct. I'm not sure if it would be relevant. They have an adjoining property, and that property was also cited, and they complied with that, which was a roofing situation. They got their permits, did everything within the compliance date. Personally, I want to believe them when they say that they have complied and fixed all the issues in the unit 304, but I can't verify nor deny that it's been done.
So are you asking me to find them in violation or just to continue this for 30 days to try to get back in?
Whatever Your Honor sees fit. 30 days, I'm hoping that we can get some kind of resolution.
Yeah, my preference would be to reset it for 30 days, because technically a notice of hearing, you guys send combined notices, but when you don't send combined notices, you wouldn't send a notice of hearing unless you verified that they didn't comply by the date specified in the notice of violation. So if you don't have anything from the tenant or from the property manager or anything confirming that they're still out of compliance, my preference would be to reset it for 30 days, or whatever the next hearing is, if you think you can get in. By then.
That would be sometime in April. I don't have the dates in front of me. But I think there's one April 1st and maybe April 15th, just off the top of my head.
Yeah, April 1st should be your regular hearing. Is that the preferred date?
Sure.
Seems to be the theme today. Tenants complain and you initiate a case and then they don't let you back in. That's That's
I don't wanna use
problematic.
I don't want to use the term weaponization of code enforcement, but apparently that's,
All right, anything further?
no, ma'am.
All right, so for the purposes of resetting this, all I have to do is find service for today's hearing. So in case CE 26014576, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll note for the record that the respondent is not present. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include signed certified mail, is also a confirmation of hand delivery signature on the notice, that the city had good service for today's hearing. Given the inability of the code inspector to gain access and confirm the continuation of violations, I'll reset this matter for violation hearing on April 1st, 2026.
Number 11, 410 49th Street, CE 25124561.
Good morning, Your Honor. Tony Apicella, Code Enforcement Officer with the City of West Palm Beach. Case number CE 25124561. On 12/30/2025, while patrolling my assigned area, I discovered a property located at 410 49th Street. Initiated investigation and inspection of the property. During the inspection, I observed several violations of the city ordinances. There was a total of 10, actually 6 have been voluntarily complied. The outstanding violations include 74-4-C-1, hurricane hazard trimming of trees, 103-18-103-B, weather tight exterior, the condition of the structure. There is rotted wood, paint. None of it is watertight. 94-442-C-1, landscape areas must be grass. There's a lot of bare areas and open sand. And 18106-G, paint. The exterior of the building is in dire straits and needs a lot of repair. Notice of violation was posted on the property on 12/31/2025. U.S. mail was sent and registered mail was sent on 1/7/2026 and received on 1/12/26. A follow-up investigation was conducted on 2/18/26, which time it determined that the violations had not been corrected. As of 2/27/26, the property does remain in violation. I did have contact several times with the owner via email, Mr. Hamid. I met him at the property on 27 and on 2/27 and went through each and every violation to educate him on what he needs to do to get it rectified. He understood while I was there, I was able to comply. 6 of the 10 violations, mainly what he has left is a lot of work on the house. So the city's requesting 60 days to comply or $100 per day. I did discuss that with him at the property at the time, and he indicated that that would be sufficient.
Thank you, sir. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony into evidence.
And what was the hurricane hazard?
The trees are touching the roof of the structure. There, so I guess it's hard to see in the photo, but there you can see
The tree in the front there or the tree on the side?
the one there in the front.
That little palm tree with the big...
palm trees are overgrown onto the roof. The indication with the red arrow was that is a piece of
siding or something that's, yeah.
It's wood and it's rotted and I actually went to point at something and my finger kind of went into the wood. So he understands that he has a lot of work to do. Again, I understand that this is the historic district, so he encounters certain steps that must be followed before he can do certain things.
And the landscape, was that in the swale?
The
Or
parkway,
whole-
yes,
yeah,
and
okay.
the part of the front yard
Front yard too, okay.
needs, this was what originally made me stop was it was actually overgrown to almost a foot high.
Okay. All right, anything further?
I'm sorry?
Anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right, in case CE 25124561, for the record, the respondent is not present. I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include signed certified mail, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the photographs in the case file and the testimony of the code enforcement officer that the respondent's in violation of section 74.4C1, 18103B, 94.442C1, and 18106G. And I'll require a respondent to comply with those code sections within 60 days, or a $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter.
Number 15 is complied,
Thank you,
650 34th Street, CE 25114334. Number 16, 1360 10th Street, CE 26024892.
Good morning, Code Officer Weaver with the City of West Palm Beach. While patrolling in my zone, I observed several violations at 1360 10th Street. I took photos of the violations, which accurately and truthfully depict the violations observed. I initiated my investigation on February the 12th of 2026, citing multiple violations. The violations were observed and confirmed through the active BTR list delinquent. So what I cited it for was 22-32-A, certificate of use required, 22-441, the rental license BTR required for rental dwellings. The notice of violation was posted at the property and City Hall on February the 13th of 2026. Certified and regular mail was sent on February the 20th of 2026 to the mailing address listed on property appraisers. I revisited the property on March 3rd and checked in the system to see if they had made payment and updated in the system. The property is still in violation of the 2 violations previously listed. I have not spoken to the property owner, but upon my posting the property, one of the tenants was sitting out front, and I did speak with them and let them know that what I was posting was for the property owner as well. The city is requesting an additional 10 days or $100 a day until compliance is achieved.
Thank you. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony into evidence.
And this is a single family?
Yes,
house?
ma'am.
All right, you spoke with the tenants and they confirmed that they were renting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, anything further from the city?
No, ma'am.
All right, in case CE 26024892, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include an affidavit of posting, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the testimony of the code enforcement officer, as well as the documents in the case file, that the respondent's in violation of sections 22.441 and 22.32A, and I'll require respondent to comply with those sections within 10 days, or a $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter.
Number 18, 1300 13th Street, CE 26014774.
Code Officer Weaver with the City of West Palm Beach. While patrolling in my zone, I observed several violations at 1300 13th Street. I took photos of the violations, which accurately and truthfully depict the violations observed. I initiated my investigation on January the 29th of 2026, citing multiple violations. The remaining violations are 94-446-2-E, edging around the perimeter of the property. It is on a corner lot. Around the sidewalk, the curbs, and roadway as needed. 78-94-C, swells and parkways. There has been some siding, but there's still some remaining bare areas. along the parkway and swell. 18-106-A, clean and sanitary. Remove all the trash and debris from the swell and the yard area. Also pressure washing the sidewalks and driveway to remove the dirt and stains. There are a lot of erosion from some plantings that were done along the perimeter of the outside of the fence, and so it's causing a lot of erosion of sand and dirt buildup. 94-442-E, landscaping of the swells and parkways. Again, sod the bare and the dead areas. 94-71-C, outdoor storage. Remove empty flower pots, planting materials, and bags of mulch, etc. from the public view. The notice of violation was posted at the property and City Hall on January 30th of 2026. Certified and regular mail was sent on January 30th of 2026 to the mailing address listed on property appraisers. I revisited the property on March the 3rd of 2026 and observed the property still in violation of the 5 violations previously listed. I spoke to the property owner, Lena St. Hilaire, on March the 2nd of 2026. She is working to comply the violation. She has requested additional time to do this, as well as, the city is requesting an additional 30 days or $100 a day until compliance is achieved.
Thank you. Special Magistrate of the City would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony into evidence.
And was the respondent in agreement with the 30 days?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, there's the edging. Was there a posting affidavit in there? Doesn't like that second set of photos, huh? Ms. Weaver, your testimony is you were out there on the 3rd, you said, of March?
Yes.
And the violations all remain?
The ones that I listed,
On the
it was
agenda.
cited for, yes, ma'am. It was cited for much more, but
The
they do
5
have
that are on the
complied a
agenda?
lot of- yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, perfect. All right, anything further from the city?
No, ma'am.
All right, in case CE 260147774, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll note for the record that the respondent is not present. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include an affidavit of posting, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the photographs in the case file and the testimony of the code enforcement officer that the respondent's in violation of sections 94-446-2E, 78-94C, 18-106A, 94-442E, and 94-71C, and I'll require a respondent to comply with those code sections within 30 days, or $100 a day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter.
Thank you.
Number 20, 314 Douglas Avenue, CE 25124556.
Richard Pasmino, City West Palm Beach Code Enforcement. This case was originally initiated by Code Officer Mark Slater. This property was, the case was cited on December 31st, 2025. It was discovered by the inspector. The notice of violation and notice of hearing was posted at the property on December 31st, 2025. The completed affidavit of posting is in the file. The certified mail for the notice of violation, notice of hearing with the violations and today's hearing date and contact information was sent via certified mail, regular mail on January 7th, 2026, and it was signed delivered on January 12th, 2026. The property was cited for 18103I, 18105I for conditions, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. The property was cited for 22441 for rental license required, and 2232A certificate of use required, 7434A1H for trash can being stored in public view. The trash can stored on the side of the property, visible. It's a corner property, so it's visible from both sides of the streets. And 744A3 for garbage, litter, refuse on all the property, including one half of the alley right-of-way, street right-of-way, and/or easement, and in the parkway and swale. I re-inspected the property. The code officer re-inspected the property on February 27th and uploaded his re-inspection photos, which are in the file. I revisited the property yesterday, March 3rd, 2026, and verified that the violations are still outstanding and exist at the property. I documented those in the photos that clearly show the violations. The rental license and certificate of use has been applied for, but it has not been obtained. It's pending inspections, passing inspections, and all the conditions of the property remain verified by me. I verified the case and all the documentation and paperwork to make sure it's a complete case. The city's recommending 21 additional days to comply with the violations, or we're asking for a one-time fine of $250 for code section 22441 and $100 a day to run for the remaining violations.
Thank you, sir. Special Magistrate of the City would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony into evidence.
When it loads, you'll see the photos from the initial inspection, 12/31. There was trash and debris on the swale area that was left out, maybe for pickup, maybe they just threw it there. And my inspection yesterday, almost 3 months, that trash is still there.
The same trash?
Yes. And then there's like trash within the yard, just small trash and debris.
And on the 22-441, are you asking me to give them 21 days and then a one-time fine after the 21 days?
Yes.
Okay.
21 days for everything for that one violation, a one-time fine, and for everything else, $100 a day. That's where the garbage can is currently stored, on the side of the house, visible from the street. There's trash and debris in the yard. I think there's a better photo coming up. It's a duplex property. There's the trash that was there since December, the initial inspection photos. I think they're individual photos.
Made a posting affidavit and we should be good.
There's one under that. Yeah. That one.
All right, perfect. All right, anything further from the city?
No, ma'am.
All right, in case CE 25124556, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case files composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file that the city had good service by virtue of an affidavit of posting. I'll note for the record that the respondent is not present. I'll find based on the photographs in the case file as well as the testimony of the code enforcement officer that the respondent's in violation of sections 22441, 2232A, 7434A1H, and 744A3. For the violation of 22-441, I'll require the respondent to comply within 21 days, or I'll assess a one-time fine in the amount of $250. For the remaining code sections, 2232A, 7434A1H, and 744A3, I'll require the respondents to comply within 21 days, or a $100 per day fine will be assessed for each day that the violations continue thereafter.
Thank you.
Number 21401 North Rosemary Avenue, Cityside Signature Printing, CE 26014697.
Good morning, Donald Lattimore, City of West Palm Beach Code Enforcement. This case, as of this morning, has been complied.
Number 22401 North Rosemary Avenue, The Family Enterprises, CE 26014701.
All right, good morning, Donald Lattimore, City of West Palm Beach Code Enforcement. I am filling in for Code Officer Mark Slater. This particular case was cited on January 23rd, 2026 as a part of the delinquent business tax receipt list for not having for not renewing their business license. Certified mail was sent on February 2nd, 2026. It was delivered on February 6th, 2026. The officer received a signed hand-delivered notice of violation to the owner and registered agent for the business. So they are aware that they need to pay the delinquent business license. With that being said, the city is asking for 14 days to comply, or a one-time fine of $250 for the business license. And for code section 22-441, 14 days to comply, or a one-time fine of $250 for code section 22-441.
I only see 82144 on the agenda.
Okay,
Was
is
it cited?
this number 22? Oh, yes, that was a typo on my behalf. You have the correct code section. Let me double check. check really fast and read it back for the record. That is correct. Sorry about the typo. For case number CE 2601471, the city is recommending 14 days to comply, or a one-time fine of $82, or a one-time fine of $250 for code violation section 82144.
Thank you, sir. Special Magistrate, the city would like to enter the case file, including the photos and testimony as evidence.
And what's the business that needs the BTR?
All right, so that business is, apologies, the Family Enterprise, Inc. Excuse me, not the Family, yes, the Family Enterprise, Inc. That's the,
And is this an instance where they've had it in previous years and they just didn't renew and repay?
that is correct. They just have to renew.
But the same business is located there or registered there?
Yes, and the notice of violation was hand delivered to the business owner. If I'm not mistaken, I think this particular business, if you notice that there's no certificate of use, it's operating as if it's an office space. Yeah.
Okay. All right, hand delivered, okay. All right, anything further?
No.
In case CE 26014701, I'll enter the city's evidentiary case file as composite exhibit 1 without objection. I'll note for the record the respondent is not present. I'll find based on the notice documents in the case file, which include both certified mail having been delivered as well as hand delivery signature for the notice of violation, notice of hearing, that the city had good service for today's hearing. I'll find based on the testimony of the code enforcement officer and the documents in the case file that the respondent's in violation of section 82144, and I'll require a respondent to comply within 14 days or assess a one-time fine in the amount of $250.
Number 23401 North Rosemary Avenue, CE 2601469.
Good morning, Donald Lattimore, City of West Palm Beach Code Enforcement. Case number CE 2601469 has complied as of this morning.
That completes the first part of the agenda.
All right, the next section was that notice for 11:30? Okay, so we'll recess and reconvene. Good morning, sir. Let me just announce for the record that we're going to convene the other matters section of the agenda. It's 11:22. Because you were not here for the prior portion of this hearing, my name is Amity Barnard. I'm the special magistrate for this portion of the hearing. First thing I'm going to do is swear you in, and anybody else who needs to be sworn that wasn't already sworn. Mr. Pasmino, you were previously sworn, but I'll swear you in again because this is a separate hearing. Can you raise your right hands for me?
Yes.
Do you both swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. A little bit about process. This is fine reduction, so the city will give me a brief bit of introductory testimony, but the burden is on you to explain to me why the fine should be reduced. So they'll say their quick statements, and then I'll turn the floor to you. So with that, just as a matter of procedure, you were noticed for 11:30. Do you have any objection to proceeding now before the hearing? You're here early, so I'm happy to do that as well, as long as you're willing to stipulate to starting early.
Yeah, no objection.
Okay, very good.
Number 24, 5201 Village Boulevard, CE 24031675.
Richard Pasmino, City of West Palm Beach Code Enforcement. This lien case was cited for a sign in the right-of-way and a prohibited portable sign that was a tenant, one of the businesses at 5205 Village Avenue. The case was ordered on April 17th, 2024, with an ordered comply by date of May 2nd, 2024. The fine started running on May 3rd, 2024 at $150 a day. The case complied on July 17th, 2024, and it ran for a total of 75 days. The current fine is $11,250. The city has come into a prior agreement with Mr. Raphael, who's here today, representing the applicant was the former property owner who applied for the lien reduction. And so we came into an agreement to reduce the lien to 15%, to $1,687.50, payable within 30 days.
All right, your name, sir?
My name is Rafael Carrero.
And you're the new owner?
No, I'm a
Or you're the prior
representative
owner?
for the owner.
Okay.
For the prior owner, yeah.
For the prior owner,
Correct.
okay. All right, and you have stipulated to starting this hearing early, is that correct, sir?
Yes.
All right, and you're in agreement with what the city said? He says you're in agreement with the reduced fine amount of 1687.50 payable within 30 days?
Yes, I am in agreement.
Okay, anything else you'd like me to hear?
No, not at the moment.
All right. Anything further from the city?
No, ma'am.
All right, in case CE 24031675, in hearing from both sides, I will grant the mutually agreed reduction. I'll reduce the lien amount from $11,250 down to $1,687.50 payable within 30 days. Just a note, make sure you get that paid within the 30 days, because if you
Yes.
don't pay it, it'll revert back to the original amount. Okay?
I understand.
Okay,
You explained
very good,
that.
sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Here's a copy of your order, sir.
Oh, sorry, she has a copy of the order for you.
Thank you.
Nothing further?
No.
I'll adjourn at 11:25.
Thank you.